everybody. Welcome to Cinemaholics meeting 001. Today we're going to be talking about Stranger Things and episode 1 of Westworld. I am Ryan Gordon, and I'm a Cinemaholic. Joining me today is Spencer.
Howdy, guys. My name is Spencer Henderson, and I am also a Cinemaholic.
So today we're going to be talking about Stranger Things, like I said. I'm going to read really quick the IMDb synopsis. It's a short one. When a young boy disappears, his mother, a police chief, and his friends must confront terrifying forces in order to get him back. Spoiler free, but we are going to get into some spoilers because that's how this show is going to be working. We're gonna analyze and talk about our thoughts, our emotions, our reactions, and just kind of deconstruct. Stranger Things. So Spencer, tell us your thoughts.
So I was pretty pumped up about this Stranger Things business. I'm a fan of a lot of the Netflix original series. So when I heard a little bit about this one, that it was an 80s period piece, it kind of drew my attention a little bit. It sounded like the directors or the creators of the show, who are the Duffer Brothers, I believe their names are, the Duffer Brothers. They were very inspired by movies of the 80s. They were inspired by Stephen King. They were inspired by John Carpenter. And that very much is apparent from watching the show. There is very, very John Carpenter-esque, Spielberg-esque, Stephen King-esque sequences basically throughout the entire show. Almost to the point where in some moments throughout the show, I might have gotten a little bit distracted by how much it was nodding its head. There's a sequence in this film that practically just recreates the E.T. bike sequence where they're running from members of the government, and then all of a sudden there's a supernatural force that saves the day at the very last minute. And I was like, man, you're nodding your head so much that I think you're hurting your neck right now. But overall, I really enjoyed certain things about it. I really enjoyed David Harbour's performance as Hopper, who is the cop, and you kind of learn things about his past throughout the series that I thought was very interesting. Winona Ryder makes an appearance in the show. It's nice to see that she's still like alive, because I hadn't seen her for a while. I feel like it had been some time since she'd made an appearance in anything that I can think of off the top of my head. And she kind of plays the crazy neurotic character that she plays in lots of the things. But the major selling point of this show, I believe, is the central characters, who are the kids, the group of kids. And every time the kids were on screen, even when I felt like the screenplay didn't really live up to what I thought. I think this series kind of ended a little bit weakly, but I think that every time the kids were on screen, I loved this show just because of their chemistry together. The kids were very, very charming. They were hilarious. That little toothless guy, is it Dustin Henderson or whatever? He was hilarious, and repping the name Henderson. So that's pretty dope. And then I actually really started to like Nancy Wheeler, who was the high school chick whose friend went missing, the one redhead girl that the internet went nuts when she went missing. But overall, I really enjoyed Stranger Things. I would say that I would give this an 8 out of 10. I think that the ending kind of stumbles a little bit before it gets to the end, and I was kind of hoping it would be an anthology after seeing how they wrapped up the first season. I wanted to see other stories kind of similarly that dealt with supernatural events and similar kind of characters and instances, perhaps. But, I like the characters enough that I will give season 2 of Stranger Things a try.
Okay, so I've got a question for you. First of all, did you see the teaser for season 2? And do you think that at the beginning you said that one of your say gripes, because you still gave it an 8 out of 10, so it's not that big of an issue. But you said the nods were a little bit too much, and the teaser is just saying a bunch of, it's just saying this and this and this, the thing and ET, all that. And it seems like that's the direction they're going again for season 2. So do you think they can stay clear of nodding too much in season 2? And are you saying that you'd prefer season 2 as a different set of characters, or do you want to see a continuation of the story with these characters?
No. So first of all, I had not seen the teaser for season 2. I actually don't watch trailers at all. I don't know if you knew that about me. I stopped watching trailers pretty recently, and so I did not know. I'd only heard from my brother-in-law that they were going to continue with the same characters in season 2. And I do understand that these filmmakers are very much in love with the 80s. They consider it to be a very romantic period, obviously. I think that's why they shot it in the 80s, is because they have an obvious love for the 80s. And so I would have rather seen a different cast of characters in the second season. To answer your question, I kind of wish this would have just been an anthology series, so each season covers a different group of characters.
Cool. I loved, I think that was the biggest selling point for me was the 80s. I did notice the same things you were talking about with the nods being a little bit too big, more like head shakes rather than a nod. But love to see with season 2 is one thing they did really strong was capture the 80s, which as well was like a film that came out last year that it was super similar to in that aspect was It Follows. It was an 80s movie with 80s music, costumes. It was a period piece of the 80s, and it captured that really well. Even the cinematography felt like something out of the 80s, with film grade and with color correcting and stuff like that. It felt authentic. But there were those moments where it did take you out a little bit too much with the specific nods. And so I hope in season 2 they do a few less nods, because they've established themselves as a franchise, the Stranger Things franchise. And I think that they can really capitalize on that, and they don't have to rely as much on, nodding to Steven Spielberg and E.T. and all of that stuff. I agree. I agree that the ending wasn't as strong as it could have been, but I'm in love with the fact that it was 8 episodes. That it totals out to an 8-hour movie rather than one episode. And I'm thrilled that they stuck to 8. A lot of times to say, oh, well, I have this big story to tell and I'm going to tell it in 15 episodes, which is fine if the story mandates that. I just finished binge watching 2 seasons of Smash, hour-long episodes, and there's 15 episodes per season. And that just drags on so much, and it feels like there's a lot of fluff. Whereas that's Stranger Things, that it wasn't a bunch of fluff. It wasn't unnecessary. It was just meticulously correct storytelling. And they did that so brilliantly and captured the essence of the 80s brilliantly. So I would give it a 9.2, because the pros, I can forgive some head nods, some nods to the 80s, a little bit too much, but I can forgive that. I'll put that to the side, and I'm in Stranger Things. Granted, I was like a month late. Everyone started talking about Stranger Things, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's so brilliant." I was like, "Yeah, whatever." So a month late, I finally got on it, and I did kind of want to sit and watch it in one session, and so that's another reason that I was late to the game. But I'm glad that I had that experience of being able to watch it in a full 8-hour session rather than once a week, because that gets kind of distracting sometimes. And I think that would have been distracting with this series.
All right, so now I actually have a couple questions for you. Do you watch any other Netflix original series, or programming?
Yes, not as much. I haven't been into the series as much as I can be. I'm looking forward to Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. That looks brilliant. I've watched all the Marvel stuff. I'm starting on Luke Cage right now. And I've watched like one or two other Netflix series, but Stranger Things is the one that I first fully developed and set apart the time to sit down and watch the whole thing.
Okay. Yeah, because I've watched other Netflix series as well, and I do think that this one actually stands up with some of the better programming on Netflix so far. I definitely agree with what you say about it being an 8-hour movie as well. And I watch other shows like House of Cards and Bloodline, BoJack Horseman. Those are all Netflix shows I watch, as well as the Marvel programming. And I'm definitely really impressed with the production quality of Stranger Things. Okay, so anything else to add regarding Stranger Things or season 2?
Your thoughts about the cinematography? Specific thoughts about the cinematography of Stranger Things, or the music, because those were the strongest points for me.
Yeah, actually, that's one thing I totally meant to mention. I made a point of saying the soundtrack, but I totally forgot about doing it. The soundtrack of this show, you referenced It Follows, and you really hit it right on the nose with that. So 80s and amazing, just very, synth and techno. The opening credit sequence of this, lots of times I will fast forward through opening credit sequences, especially if they're too long. I would watch the Stranger Things one on a loop for maybe 10 hours because it is so awesome. And it made me feel just like a burst of nostalgia through me. I got really excited every single time it played it. And the cinematography as well, as some of the sets in the show are incredible. Like on The Other Side, that sequence where Nancy Wheeler went through the tree to the other dimension was just totally incredible. Looked great. It was shot very well, and it was very tensely directed. There were lots of sequences throughout the show. The pilot was amazing, had a couple very horrific sequences and imagery in the pilot sequence. And another thing that I didn't really mention is that this program is actually only TV-14, so it's pretty friendly for families and younger audiences to watch. And I think that's one of the reasons why it was so popular.
I would agree with that. I agree. One other quick thought was Other Side, the Upside Down, and every time we went there, and whenever it was that big black void, that was so brilliant and breathtaking to just see her standing there in the blackness with the water standing there. It reminded me a lot of Under the Skin, where I wasn't a huge fan of Under the Skin, but the way they pulled it off in this was on point. Okay, you've got beef. What's your beef?
Oh, just the Under the Skin comment, but we'll get to that some other time. All right, you ready to start on Westworld?
Yeah, I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so guys, Westworld is supposed to be the new Game of Thrones. There's been tons of hype about this show. It's HBO's new series, the new big science fiction with big names behind it. Jonathan Nolan, J.J. Abrams, those are only a couple of the names that are behind the series. They're running this show. And so huge amounts of hype to this. And according to IMDb, the plot of Westworld is a series inspired by the 1973 film of the same title written by Michael Crichton about a futuristic theme park populated by artificial beings. The pilot of this was directed by Jonathan Nolan, also written by Jonathan Nolan, the man behind The Dark Knight, in case you weren't wondering. Christopher Nolan's brother. He wrote the script for The Dark Knight. He didn't direct it. I'm not ignorant. Ryan, what did you think of Westworld?
tell that it was a Nolan project. It had tastes of Inception. It had tastes of The Prestige. Um, um, if whether or not it's the next Game of Thrones, I don't think so. I am not. I've watched the first episode 6 times, but I've never made it past that, and I'm putting it on my list to get through Game of Thrones and catch up. But that's like 6 seasons now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
One day I'll get there, but I think I'm gonna stick with Westworld for now. Enjoyed it. The world part more than the West part. I feel like maybe some of the West part lacked chemistry. I could tell that they were going for an artificial approach. It greenish, like they were halfway to really engulfing us into a Wild West environment. Stranger Things did that really well at letting you buy into the full world. I really bought into the world part. The West part was lacking a little bit. Whether that was just chemistry, like I said. At the same time, I want to hear your thoughts on this because it felt flat to me. Everything in the West felt flat. But I feel like that was a directorial choice because the part was fake, artificial. That's a second reality. And so I get that. It didn't quite pay off or work for me, but I get the direction that they're going, and it hooked me enough for a pilot that I'm excited to see where the series is going. And from what I've been reading about Game of Thrones, the first season was everyone got on board, and was even better. And so I'm hoping that as this season develops, they're able to get their hands on what they want to do. Jonathan Nolan's only directed one other thing in his life, and that was a pilot for another TV series like back in 2013 or something. So I'm excited that he directed this. What were you saying?
No, I was just going to say, was that pilot Person of Interest?
I think it was. I looked it up a little bit earlier on IMDb because I was curious as to what he's directed, because everyone knows Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan just kind of goes to the wayside. When I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think Jonathan's been there through all of Chris's projects. They've co-wrote most. I mean, he's been there and they collaborate really well together. And it was interesting to see that his wife on quite a few of them as well as this. But I think it's a good directorial debut for this, and I'm excited to see where it goes. The cinematography, a little weak on the West point, but when you get into the theme park, when you're seeing all the behind the scenes stuff, the cinematography is brilliant. The lighting is astonishing. This world that they've created, I'm intrigued about, and I want to see. What are your thoughts on it?
So yeah, I am a huge HBO fan. I watch a lot of its programming. I watch Game of Thrones. I watch Silicon Valley. I've just started Veep, and I'm really enjoying that. 6 Feet Under is one of my favorite shows. The Wire. I basically should be paid by HBO for how much I promote their shows. And you know what? I'm just going to keep adding to it because they keep making great content, because I loved the pilot of Westworld. However, I will say there is a but to that, and that is that it took the entire first episode, like until the payoff at the very end of the episode, for me to be like, okay, I like this. I like where this is going. I like the tone that it's setting. Evan Rachel Wood's character, who is in the West, I kind of am flipped with you. I think the most interesting parts of this show were the scenes that they showed in the West. I'm super interested by the kind of idea that humans have become the villain in this world, just because of their kind of primal, kind of dirty, nasty instincts. Ed Harris plays a really just despicable character in this show. And everything that took place in the world part of it, like you said, especially in the end, got super, super interesting, I thought. And when it started to ask questions, kind of like the Blade Runner android questions, like what does it mean to be human? Can an artificial intelligence start to have feelings and all that? When a specific one of the droids starts to experience feelings, I found that just to be super interesting, the way they handled it and executed that scene. I think the world building in the show is great. There aren't as many characters as in a show like Game of Thrones, so it kind of lets the scenes breathe a little bit more than that show has in some of the seasons. I wouldn't say in this most recent season of Game of Thrones, which is amazing and everybody should watch, by the way. But yeah, I'm really digging where this is going. The cast is great. You're right about the lighting. The sets and the production value of it looks pretty decent. There were a couple parts, I agree with you on the green screen comments. There was a couple parts where the CGI looked a little bit sloppy. I'll forgive it because it's a TV show and doesn't have as big of a budget as a huge science fiction film would. But yeah, I'm really, really interested and curious to see where this goes. I don't think it was a total knockout, the pilot. I don't even think I could give this a score at the moment because I'm more curious to see where they take some of these characters. I do hope that it follows Evan Rachel Wood as the main character of the show.
And I think, like you were saying, with the payoffs at the end, there were a few like right in a row, right at the end, that did hook me. And I think based on all of those, she's going to be following. If not, she's going to be the vehicle that's going to get us to the main characters that we're following. The whole thing, do you think that's what they're going for? You mentioned the CGI and the green screen-esque kind of stuff. Do you think that's what they were going for with the different worlds?
You know, so are you saying like they wanted to make, are you saying the West was the place that looked more artificial? Because I thought it was the other way. I thought the world part of it, because am I mistaken? Is the West the area where all of the like cowboys and stuff are?
Yeah.
And that was the part that you thought looked fake? Yeah.
Well, not like when you were in actual sets in the West.
Yeah.
But when they attempted these big wides, you could tell that they didn't have budget, and it had a disconnect for me, which maybe that's what they were going for. I think that's what they were going for, is because you get into this alternate world where people are going to escape, and it's not your reality. It is kind of, it's an illusion, and is it happening in your head? Maybe they'll explain that later, but you're like in a coma or something, and you're transported into this narrative that could go, you influence where the story goes, which is brilliant. And I'm so thankful that they don't treat us dumb. I think that would have been the downfall if they tried to explain and they had so much exposition that they were trying to help you understand. This would have fallen flat.
Yeah.
This would have not taken off.
That's what I figure, is that hopefully they're just planning on taking their time to set up and build the rules of this world, because really if they would have tried to do that all in this first episode, it probably would have felt extremely like rushed and just bloated. And I'm really thankful that they're kind of taking their time and kind of letting it breathe, because nothing too insane happened in this first episode as far as I'm concerned. There were a couple like deaths, but they didn't really have too many stakes because the character just came back because of his role in the show and what he is. So, but yeah, overall, I'm excited. I think I'm going to keep watching it. Are you definitely going to keep up week to week with this show?
Definitely. And like you said, I don't think I can really score it at this point. I would score it in a way that I would just say, yes, this is something that you should watch and continue. I'm going to follow it. We'll see where it goes. because it's something that I feel like if they take it the wrong direction, then I'm going to be out. But if they continue on the direction that they're headed, I'm going to be in for the long run. And I'm excited to see the season as a whole. And then maybe I can rate that and give it an official, rating out of 10.
Nice. All right, so everybody check out both Stranger Things and Westworld. Ryan, where can people find you at to, follow you or whatever? Do you have Instagram? Do you have Twitter? What do you got, buddy?
Yes, Instagram and Twitter, both Rye_Gordon. I am getting better at Instagram. I have my Twitter linked to my Facebook where I post everything. I'm on Facebook, facebook.com/RYLMS. Go ahead, add me as a friend. I don't care. It'd be fun. What about you? Where are you at?
You can follow me on Twitter. I'm pretty brand new to it, actually, brand spanking new. I just reactivated my Twitter after like a 3-year break from Twitter, just for this channel alone, the occasion of this. You can follow me at Spinnyhand, SPENNYHEND. Thank you all for watching. My name is Spencer, and I'm a Cinemaholic.
I'm Ryan. I'm a Cinemaholic. Thanks again for watching, guys. Comment. Let us know your thoughts. We will see you next time.